Axis and Allies North Africa, a game that's making me do a double take, with its over 18 insane gameplay mechanics and uncovering its secret campaigns that almost made it into the box. It's a fast-paced battleground forcing you to adapt to your enemy's strategies, all while desperately matching gameplay to the real history of World War II North Africa, which is where a lot of people thought this game fell short, including me. But today, all of that changes. Hey Leets, I'm Pwns Jones, hacker turned board game hacker. And in this video, you'll see my second take on North Africa, along with its 18 epic gameplay mechanics and the 2 secret campaign ideas that didn't quite make the cut, and how you can recreate them with one click. Run it. The conflict began as a seesaw desert battle across Libya and Egypt between the British and soon-to-be-rescued Italians. Anzac and the Free French launch an offensive against the Vichy French, who are Axis-leaning, depriving the Germans of easy access to the Middle East and its oil. For the next 2 years, the desert served as a massive tactical playground where Rommel's forces and the British 8th Army trade crushing blows. The stalemate finally broke when the Allies landed in western Vichy-controlled territories in Operation Torch, forcing the Axis into a dual-front conflict. Will the Allies gain enough momentum to squeeze the Axis into surrendering? Or will the Axis push back hard enough to keep control in North Africa, holding back the inevitable invasion of Italy? Axis and Allies North Africa, where the fate of the world rests with you. This game kicks off at one of 2 places in history: January 1942 with Rommel's last push, or at the end of 42 with Operation Torch. At 5-2, it's one of the craziest aspect ratioed maps I've ever played, as it showcases the Mediterranean down to the Sahara Desert, an almost perfect stage for a wild ride down history lane, jamming every insane gameplay mechanic they could under this lid, starting with territory names. Territories labeled via cities instead of regions. I absolutely love that. They tossed extra units in the box. Yes, they did. You pre-purchase Suez Canal reinforcement units. Supply tokens are now necessary for attacking, continued attacking, and defending. There's trucks, a non-combat unit used to quickly move supplies, infantry, artillery, anti-aircraft guns, and anti-tank guns, and do very quickly with the coast road movement up to 5 territories. The Sahara Desert. These beige territories are impassable to all units except scout cars. Scout cars, they don't spend supplies to attack and can attack in and out of the Sahara Desert. Scout cars have hit-and-run tactics. They stay for the first round of combat, then leave, sniping lone units, destroying enemy supplies, flanking. This is one of my favorites. Approaching from the side of the main battle, with a better chance of hitting. 10-sided dice for more accurate rolling. C-zone decluttering. Transport pieces are not physically required. Also, these invisible transports can slip away from sea combat. I love that. Port dependency for these invisible transports. Own the destination port, or the transport gets turned around. Malta, the unsinkable aircraft carrier. Can't be invaded, Allies stage planes there, and manage supplies to trigger a 15 income boost. Straight up by land and sea mines, directly into territories or sea zones. Landmines are placed along a chosen border. Non-chance, non-lethal landmines. Detonation is decided by the defender, only canceling an attack into a territory. Turning around a minefield. Once a territory is captured, remaining minefields are scouted, studied, and turned around to be a strategic asset against your enemy. The mechanics flow so smoothly that you must adapt to your opponent's moves rather than relying on predictable strategies, like spamming Russian infantry. These scenarios offer quick 90-minute campaigns for fast-paced play. But the campaigns in the box only cover roughly half of what actually went down in Africa, which is where our 2 hidden, missing scenarios come to the table. I'll tell you about all those in a few seconds. But first, I found a few teeny tiny issues with ANA North Africa. I'm a hacker. Remember? Landmines. It feels bizarre that you manually detonate your own mines, auto-inherit and immediately weaponize enemy minefields, and that landmines don't actually destroy units. Sea mines are deadlier, but also feel bizarre, allowing you to choose when to sink ships, including loaded up invisible transports. It feels bizarre, because the rules are missing an official, digestible, human-friendly explanation. One like this. In real life, defenders must actively corral enemies into minefields. This, at most, fumbles an invasion instead of wiping out an entire armored division. Sea mines require similar corralling efforts. Easy, but the rules do not bridge that gap. And speaking of the rulebook, it's definitely pretty, but it's not friendly. It already assumes that you know the rule you're currently reading. So skip the book entirely. Board Game Nation's official how to play video, linked below, is all you're gonna need. The Jeep is tiny, too tiny, and difficult to handle. It's utterly absurd. And the more I think about it, there's no way this is an intentional design choice. It has to be some manufacturing error or something. Ignore Italy's nonsensical stacking limit. I've been told it wasn't in the original game testing. Invisible transports are a clever, clutter-free mechanic, and I'm on board. However, there's gotta be ship graphics instead of just flags on the board. Plus a secondary location to slide escaped units. The map! OMG, the map. I have so many things to say. Back to those convoys. The sea zones are way too small. They fill up fast, plus ships, then transports slip away. They had to see this coming. Does nobody own a measuring tape? Dead space. A third of this board is non-playable dead space. Highlight it and remove it. There, room for larger sea zones. We're winning already. But the biggest, tastiest cherry on the map blundering cake, the Suez Canal. Actually, this entire corner of the map. These 3 sea zones represent a convoy trip around Africa, and the design is horrifying. Half baked into the landscape, and the other half floating above the canal. This corner is a complete visual nightmare. But I have a solution that not only fixes that heinous corner, but also sets up an almost official mini campaign that nearly made it into the box. But to understand why, we must first look at the North African conflict timeline. Axis and Allies North Africa starts here, beginning of 1942, which means it's missing almost 2 years of prior conflicts. Enter our first North Africa campaign that got cut from the final release, because it was impossible. The story goes, Matt Hyra, the lead game designer, explained to Two or Less, a small YouTuber, that when they were working on North Africa, there was a thought of it starting in February 1941 rather than a year later in January 42, right at the time of Rommel showing up to rescue the Italians after failing to take Egypt. So why did the Feb 41 idea never make it into the box? I spoke with one of the game testers. He said getting the game mechanics to recreate the historical, predictable back and forth of territory exchanges was nearly impossible. You've got to remember, some lands early on in the war exchanged hands some 6 times before North Africa's climactic ending. And to make sure that climactic ending is in the game, the unpredictable beginning had to go. However, Two or Less worked with Matt Hyra to flush out this early scenario. It's a full-on game layout. I like how they only use half the map. And yes, those are German reinforcements en route. Links below for the full setup and rules. But our timeline continues to our next scenario that got cut from the official release, Operation Exporter, the invasion of Syria and Lebanon. The Axis-leaning Vichy French controlled the region, granting Germany easy access to Middle Eastern oil. In response, a coalition of British, Anzac, Indian, and Free French forces invaded. Following the Vichy surrender, approximately 5,000 French troops switched sides to fight for the Allies. I was given this next info directly from an Axis and Allies North Africa playtester. And this mini campaign incorporates directly into the original January 42 game setup. Egypt is now adjacent to Syria, which is worth 5 income, but only to the Germans. The defending Vichy French fight for the Axis until a failed combat roll triggers their defection to the Allies. This scenario was pitched and debated and ended up getting cut. And I get it. Adding more nations, Anzac and Free French units, and then you have the French fighting French combat confusion. But remember when I mentioned I had a fix for the hideous bottom corner of this map? Well, you're 1 click away from Operation Exporter and a visual, logical convoy sea zone layout wrapping around Africa. Like it should. You just have to hit print. Axis and Allies North Africa is a game that just keeps on giving. It's fast, punchy, and scratches that historical World War II itch. It has 18 epic game mechanics coupled with these 2 new hidden gems. North Africa is quickly becoming the crown jewel of the Axis and Allies franchise.